See this now. You might be experiencing the quietest moment of your life, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. There is an invisible movement in your favor, and if you ignore the signs, you might miss the most important turning point in your story. Yes, the signs of a divine shift have already begun to appear, but not everyone can discern them. And those who don't recognize the signs get distracted at the moment of greatest transformation. Comment now. I am attentive to the signs to seal this word in the spiritual realm. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone urgently needing clarity. Have you ever felt like you're standing still in a moving world? As if everyone is moving forward, except you? That was the feeling Andre had, a young man who had completely surrendered to God's calling. He left a promising job, friends, plans, all out of obedience. But after the surrender, silence. Nothing happened. He prayed, he fasted, but the answer didn't come. For months, everything seemed closed, until one night Andre had a dream. He saw a dark room and heard only one phrase: "Those who endure the silence will see the supernatural." The next morning, he began to notice small things. People who had disappeared returning, Bible verses repeating, inexplicable feelings of urgency. He didn't understand everything, but he knew something was coming. A divine shift doesn't happen out of nowhere. It is always preceded by invisible movements, by signs that only those in tune with heaven can recognize. Before the promise manifests, there are spiritual displacements. God begins to close cycles. Friendships are removed. Plans suddenly fail. What seems certain starts to go wrong. But this isn't chaos, it's repositioning. It's heaven clearing the ground. The signs that precede a spiritual shift usually come like this: a feeling of displacement, as if you no longer belong where you are, loss of connections that once seemed essential, unexplained fatigue even after rest, a deep desire to reorganize life, old interests losing meaning, strong revelations in dreams, repetition of numbers, phrases, verses, an internal conviction that something is changing. If you're experiencing this, you're being aligned. And later in this video, I'll show you 3 actions that accelerate this process and activate the manifestation of the promise. But here's the point many ignore. Not every blessing comes wrapped as a gift. Sometimes it comes disguised as a crisis, the loss of a job, someone leaving, a door closing. All of this may seem like a setback, but it's divine strategy. God often allows a fall to reveal what was hidden or to push you to a place you wouldn't have the courage to go alone. And it's precisely at this moment of apparent deconstruction that he begins to build what is eternal. When Andre understood that the silence was preparation, he stopped resisting, stopped complaining, stopped seeking external signs, and began to look within. His mind became lighter, his faith strengthened. He started waking up every day with a phrase on his lips: "Today could be the day." And even when it wasn't, he didn't get frustrated, because he understood that the miracle begins before the evidence. You can also experience this state of inner relief, this level of clarity, even in the midst of waiting. When you recognize the signs of a divine shift, your anxiety decreases, your soul repositions, your faith strengthens, your mindset elevates, your language changes, and the invisible begins to respond to your positioning. And the best part? You start to attract what once seemed distant. Now listen carefully. Spiritual signs are not for admiration, they're for activation. You need to respond to them with practical faith. And here are 3 actions that unlock the spiritual shift. Immediate obedience. Stop delaying what God has already confirmed in your heart. The delay is often not in God, but in our indecision. Strategic silence. Stop sharing promises with those who lack spiritual maturity. Not everyone will understand what you carry. Daily prophetic declaration. Every day upon waking, say firmly, I am living in the time of preparation. My shift is on the way. Because words create atmospheres, and what you declare, you attract. Now hear this. God doesn't send random signs. If you're feeling, seeing, perceiving, it's because heaven is whispering to your spirit, prepare yourself. The shift is near. Comment now, I am in the pre-shift. The gears of the invisible are already turning, and the next cycle of your life begins where many think everything ended. The shift is underway. The signs have already arrived. Now it's up to you. There is a specific moment, almost always ignored, that precedes every great divine shift. Silence. It's not just any silence. It's a silence filled with purpose. Many people interpret this silence as abandonment. They think, God has forgotten me. But heaven responds, I'm preparing you. You're not being ignored. You're being instructed in the Spirit. God's silence is a fertile ground where maturity sprouts. Because while you wait, God works. It's in this silent interval that He adjusts your interior so you can bear the weight of the blessing to come. Because it's not hard to receive something. The challenge is sustaining what you receive. And God doesn't release what you ask for. He releases what you're ready to carry. Another clear sign that a divine shift is near is when the old begins to die. Friendships wear out. Previously familiar environments start to suffocate. You feel as if you're in no man's land. This is uncomfortable but necessary. God's new doesn't fit into old molds. This spiritual discomfort is the womb of transformation. It's where new beginnings are born. So when everything around you seems to be falling apart, pause and observe. Maybe it's not an end. Maybe it's a birth. When you start noticing doors closing without explanation and opportunities that seem certain simply vanish, it doesn't mean failure. It means realignment. There are doors that God closes, not out of malice, but out of mercy. Because He knows that what's on the other side doesn't support what He wants to do in you. And at this very moment, the heavens are adjusting the map of your journey. You feel discomfort now because you're being transported. You're no longer who you were, but you haven't yet become who you'll be. This intermediate space is called transition, and in transition, everything inside you begins to be shaken. Before the shift, there's always an identity test. You'll be tempted to doubt who you are. You'll be tempted to compare yourself. You'll be tempted to assume roles not designated for you. But God is saying, remain in who you are in me. The greatest war happens when you're about to discover who you truly are. And this war can come in the form of criticism, betrayal, or even self-questioning. But if you resist, on the other side is the revelation of your true spiritual authority. There is a time when God hides His chosen ones. You pray, but no one sees. You help, but no one thanks you. You plant, but nothing blooms. But this is also a sign, because every seed first dies before breaking through the earth. If you're in this hidden time, don't rebel. The seed isn't buried to be forgotten, but to be transformed. And at the right time, what was in silence will become visible. Maybe you thought that promise from years ago was canceled, that the vision God gave you was left in the past. But here's a spiritual truth. God doesn't archive promises. He matures them. What you saw in that dream, that prayer, that prophetic word is still alive, and it's closer to fulfillment than ever. But he needs you positioned, not distracted, not discouraged, not disconnected, but sensitive to the signs. Remember Andre? He didn't receive an answer because of the strength of his faith, but because of his persistence during the silence. And when the door finally opened, it wasn't an ordinary door. It was a portal. He was taken to a place he hadn't planned for, but it was exactly where he needed to be. And there, everything began to make sense. The same is being prepared for you. You won't end this year in the same place. You're not being ignored. You're being positioned. And when the shift comes, you'll remember this moment. So comment now, I am ready for the shift. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this video with someone who feels at the end of the line. Because in truth, it's not the end. It's just the beginning.